Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Bitter Geeks Podcast. This week we're continuing our continued discussion on Zack Snyder's Justice League and everything in it, everything great about it, our thoughts on everything, and so we're pretty much picking up right where we left off discussion-wise from last week. Not everyone is here who was here last week, but we definitely have some faces that weren't here last week, and one of them is Emily. If you listen to the podcast, she's been here before. And we also have Dash, we also have Al, and Liz, who's new to the podcast, who was here last week, may or may not be here, so I'm waiting up on her. But let's go ahead and jump into this thing. So Emily, what were your thoughts on the movie when you watched it for the first time?
I really enjoyed it. Definitely was long, but I am glad for the chapter breaks.
Mm-hmm.
There were some moments where I definitely think should have been either not in the movie or just kind of shortened, like the Martian Manhunter bits. I thought that was kind of unnecessary.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. And also the nightmare scene, I think that could have been either a post credits thing, or a mid credits thing.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, I did enjoy the action scenes. I definitely enjoyed Cyborg being an actual character.
Mm-hmm.
That was good. I think for me the best improvement was the music.
Mm-hmm.
This is probably Junkie XL's best soundtrack since Mad Max Fury Road.
Yeah,
it definitely fits what Zack is going for much better than Danny Elfman.
Oh.
I definitely enjoyed the soundtrack much more in this case.
Mm-hmm.
But overall, I think it's a good movie. Maybe not the best out of Zack's 3 DC movies, but I definitely am glad that this exists.
Yeah, me too.
Even if it doesn't quite live up to my expectations, I am glad that Zack is able to move on and just finally have this thing behind him. And I don't know whether we're going to restore the Snyderverse or not, but let's see what happens, I guess.
Yeah, and I'm pretty much the same way. And for me, watching this movie for the first time, I did my best not to go in with any really sad expectations. But after seeing the movie a few times, the movie pretty much is the movie I thought it was going to be. There were definitely things in there I really enjoyed that I didn't think I was not that I didn't think I was going to enjoy them, but things that really stood out to me, like the Flash going back in time moment. I didn't think that was going to be as impactful as it was for me emotionally in the film itself. The Cyborg stuff was great. I know the music has definitely been a topic of discussion amongst our space and in general with the new added bit to Wonder Woman's theme with the ancient lamention voice or whatever. And so for me there was definitely things I could have changed this here or there, but again, I think there are definitely a lot more things that stood out to me that I really enjoyed now that I've seen the movie multiple times. And I really enjoyed the movie. Again, I still feel it. Where I ranked it last time, I had BVS, Man of Steel, this, and then Birds of Prey, and then the rest of the DCU. But I think as of right now, it's still where it was last week. I still think it's a really good movie. I think it's a really entertaining movie. Obviously not to the levels of Man of Steel or BVS as far as character depth and a lot of the deeper themes and all the layers and stuff. And I went in knowing that with the studio interference and Zack trying to put in as much as he could content-wise, it was never going to be either of those movies, which is fine for me, because I made that bed and I lied in it, I made peace with it a long time ago. So with all that being said, I went in and I had a really good time. And I know we've definitely touched on some things that we didn't like here, and there are definitely some problems that we can and will be talking about, but overall, I had a really positive experience watching this movie, and every time I watch it, I just come out with a big smile on my face, even though, a lot of people, have issue with, the nightmare scene, like you said, or Martian Manhunter stuff, that could have been tagged on as, a post-credit or mid-credit thing. I understand that, especially because, the movie does have, pretty much a really good definitive end when Superman does a shirt rip and then Silas has that last line. That does work as the end of the movie. And then you can add in, the Deathstroke thing with Lex. That could have been, a mid-credit scene, and then the end credit scene could have been the Nightmare and Martian Manhunter thing. That could have been a way to do it. And that's... Obviously, the Martian Manhunter and Nightmare stuff was all stuff that Zack did after the fact. He did that in the additional photography last year. And love it or hate it, that's what Zack wanted to do, and he did it. And for me personally, like, I know the Nightmare is not the most loved Zack idea in this podcast, but I don't hate it. And the Martian Manhunter thing, I like it, actually. I know people, like, and I'm not, like, saying, like, oh, you're wrong for thinking this way, but for me personally, like, I actually like the Martian Manhunter ending as far as, like, an end to this Justice League story, and, like, this like, pseudo-Superman trilogy of, like, Superman inspiring others to come out and to do good, and, like, seeing him there, I liked it. In that moment, I liked it. I will say, like I mentioned last time, that, like, I don't think that including Martian Manhunter in the Martha scene was a good idea. That's definitely one thing I still think is, like, Zack, I understand, like, you wanted to do certain things. I don't agree with him, and I feel like that was definitely something you could have pulled out. But, other than that, overall, I really enjoyed this movie. It's definitely, like, it's still one of my favorite comic book movies. I think it's one of the most entertaining comic book movies I've seen, like, ever. There's a lot of good in it. All the acting is on par. I think the score, for the most part, really works for me. Again, there could be things that be chopped out or, like, condensed, but overall, I come out of it really, really feeling good about, if this is it, I'm fine with it. And, we could talk about a little more of, like, restore the Snyderverse, if that's going to be a thing. As of right now, people in the fandom are trending it on Twitter, and it just passed 1 million tweets for the hashtag. So, like, for the people who are fighting for that, like, that's great. Like, we'll see if anything comes out of it. But as of right now, I don't see that happening. So I'm not getting my hopes up either way. So if this is it, I'm personally okay with it, and I'm glad Zack got to have his movie and his story come out in this way, even if a lot of it was, having to fight the studio, having to fight to get all the things he wanted to get in there. But I'm happy with where it is.
Hey guys, what's up?
And listen, Liz has finally joined us, like I mentioned.
Hey, I was lurking for a minute, but you paused, so.
It's like you didn't miss much. Just Emily just shared her thoughts, and I'm kind of like summing up my thoughts. So yes, we just started, so you're all good there.
Perfect.
But yeah, so now that we're all here, is there anything that you guys have been, like, sitting on for the past week, now that it's been a week since the movie dropped, that we haven't had the chance to talk about, that you would like to talk about?
What's your thought on Justice's Grave? On the Justice's Grave version of
the movie,
Justice League.
So I've seen half of it. So I literally got to, like, the 2-hour mark, and then I stopped because it was, like, middle of the night and I was, like, super tired. So I'll give, like, my verdict on it, like, next time we record here. But up to where I am right now in the movie, the black and white, I think it's fine. Like, it looks good. It doesn't add too much for me or take away too much for me. Like, as I'm watching the movie, like, I do kind of forget that I'm watching it in black and white. So, like, it's not that big a deal to me, but I will say that there are certain things, like, in the beginning, like the music choices, that I definitely feel like, almost work better with the black and white. Like, the song that plays with Lois when she goes to visit the Superman Memorial. For whatever reason, I feel like the music choice works better there than it does in the regular version. I don't know why. That's just, like, how I felt about it. But overall, like, it's not too much of a different experience. Like, I'm glad Zack did this, because obviously, like, the whole thing with leading up to this movie was, when Zack had it at his house on his desktop, it existed in black and white because he saw the crappy, oversaturated, colored posters from the theatrical version and was like, oh, hell no. And so he made his version all black and white, and that's the version he showed to friends and family and stuff. And I always thought that was really funny. But, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but overall, it doesn't... Up until now, it doesn't change too much, but I'm glad it exists for Zack, and I've always been of the mind of, like, black and white doesn't really affect me either way. Like, I'll watch it. I mainly watch it for Zack and to help get the view numbers up for the movie. But it's fine. Like, it doesn't, like, if it's a version of the movie I can watch again, I'm happily watching it, and I'm fine watching it. So yeah.
Yep. Okay. Yeah.
I would watch it if I had access to it, but I don't. So
yeah, and that's the weird thing because it's HBO Max isn't available worldwide, and the movie is on all the various platforms internationally. Like, it's weird because like HBO Max is just listed it as another option to watch the movie, but for pretty much everywhere else, no one else really has the option to, except for maybe a few people or a few countries here and there. But yeah, I don't know. That's my whole issue with the whole international rollout. A lot of this stuff, I just feel like it was like it wasn't done with the most organized thought process.
Yeah.
But I don't know. When you guys see it, I think you guys will like the difference. Like, it doesn't, again, I don't think it adds a ton, but I don't know. I think Zack does make it look good in black and white. Like, it definitely doesn't feel like that last trailer he did, where he basically just put on the black and white filter. It definitely feels like this is the version he's wanted to put out for a while.
Yeah. It does. I gotta see it for myself, but like, I've never been the type to care about movies being in black and white unless it's a movie that I feel could work in black and white. And for me, I just can't see Zack Snyder's Justice League being able to. I don't know, like it's different from like Logan, because when Logan was black and white, it sort of made sense because it sort of had a grounded realism to it. Whereas with Justice League, it's like flying aliens and such.
I get that, and that was definitely something that for me when I turned the movie on last night. Well, I'm like, okay, well, because I love how Zack Snyder does color, and like, especially in this movie, I think there's a lot of scenes where like the color really pops. Like the opening scene with like the death of Superman, I think is visually one of the best looking things in the movie. So in the back of my mind, I'm like, okay, well, am I going to be looking at this and being like, okay, well, that looked better in color, that looked better in color. After the first few minutes, I definitely got used to it, and I think it looked pretty. I thought it looked pretty good. I don't know if I'm going to watch this movie again in black and white, but as it is, I thought it looked really good. Even though I'm used to seeing stuff like Zack's in color, and I don't think this movie necessarily calls for it to be in black and white. As you said. Like, I think that only happened because of the circumstances that Zack described when he did it in the first place. But I don't know. I'm definitely of the mindset I'm glad Zack did it, but after I finish watching it in black and white, I'm just gonna stick with watching it in color. But I definitely think you guys should at the very least give it a shot in black and white because I think Zack put in the effort and he did make it look good. And you do very quickly forget that you're watching it in black and white.
I mean, at some point.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I got you. So obviously, as I've mentioned, I know we kind of touched on these things here and there, but I do want to get your guys' opinions of the score because I know it's something we've kind of touched on. Like, some people have like more negative opinions, some people have more positive opinions. I do kind of want to get like overall consensus of like what you guys thought of the score and like, did you like the things that Junkie did or did you not like some of the things Junkie did? Like, what were some of your guys' takeaways from that?
I think Junkie did his best when it came to specific characters, like the individual character themes.
Mm-hmm.
There's definitely Superman's theme, which I really liked. His theme for Superman near the end, because it was like, because I love Superman's new theme. Don't get me wrong, like that one that he's had in the DCEU for quite some time. But I'm also I also love like John Williams' theme too, right? So what I liked about this particular theme that played when Superman first arrived is that it had like that bombastic mix that you would hear from the John Williams song fused with the new Man of Steel theme, and I thought that was it just sounded so good to me. It was a cool mix.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I will remember when I first heard it for the first time, I'm like, oh, what's this? Because it was played on the brass instruments compared to the strings, like it pretty much has been up until now. Because it's so loud and like I didn't recognize it immediately, so I'm like, oh, what's this new theme? Like I'm not big on it. But then the second time I'm like, oh, it's the Man of Steel theme, but just on different instruments, and it's meant to feel more heroic and more light. Like I think it works for the scene. I'm not sure how everyone else feels about it, but I liked it. But I still kind of prefer like the more subtle Man of Steel theme, like the stuff that played like when they were getting ready to resurrect him, and like with when the music would play when like Lois had her scenes. I will say though, I do like how they used it, or how Junkie used it in like the new flight scene, and the way he used the flight music in the final battle, and the whole league was kind of like fighting to it. I thought that was pretty cool. Because obviously the fight music and the fight scene is one of the most iconic moments of the Man of Steel and of these films so far. So I'm glad that was brought back. And that's the thing, like, how do you feel about it? I'm just glad that Junkie brought back the Man of Steel theme, because obviously in Justice League it was like pretty much non-existent, and all we heard was some crappy version of like the John Williams theme when Superman was fighting the Flash, which was stupid as hell. So it was just really nice hearing it again after not hearing it for what feels like forever. I like... this is going to be the controversial one. I liked the new, like, Lamention voice thing that he did for Wonder Woman and the Amazons. But I will say, though, like, after watching the movie a few times, he definitely could have toned it down as far as how often he used it. But other than that, I liked it. I think I'll just still defend the choice of him changing it a little bit, but still keeping her theme in general. But I can definitely see where, like, okay, well, we didn't need to hear it again and again and again and again and again and again,
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I still like it as an addition to the theme. But again, just placement of it, he could have done a little better as far as like not using it as often as he did.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then like he like made like, because I was watching, he's been doing like videos and stuff on how he made the music for the movie, and Junkie was talking about like why he'd made like a new Batman theme, and he was explaining like, oh well, Batman's in a new chapter in his life, so he was explaining why why the previous one was like more like melancholic, and how this one is kind of like Superman's like more heroic, and I get that, but for me, I do like, like the consistency in themes, especially when you literally have the same composer that you had from the last movie, or at least one of the composers doing this one. So like, it's weird going from like the very heavy theme for Batman and Batman v Superman to something that honestly kind of sounds like the Danny Elfman version a little bit. I mean, I like it, but it's still like I couldn't help but hear little bits of the Danny Elfman-ness in it. I don't hate it, but I was like, okay, well, I kind of would have preferred you just maybe they tweaked the previous version. I will say that one of my favorite new themes was the Flash theme when Flash was going back in time at the end.
Yeah,
that whole that seriously was that whole Flash scene was one of my favorites, probably of all three of Zack's movies.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah, like the moment leading up to it, it feels like... I know there are people who had doubts about Ezra Miller playing Barry, especially after Justice League, where like he was literally made into a joke. But for me, like, just watching that scene, I'm just like, it solidified, like, he's great in the role. Like, not that I didn't think he was bad in the role up until that point. I just feel like there were definitely moments earlier in the movie where, like, his humor just, like, didn't always land for me. But, like, once, like, the movie got going, especially in that last half, like, that's where I feel like, okay, well, like this is the character I want to see. And this is the character I'm, like, invested in now. And with him going back in time and, like, giving himself that speech and like, saying, like, what he was saying to his dad. And, like, it's just, and visually, everything about that scene was fantastic. And it makes me so happy that we got to see this movie. Because it's just such a night and day difference from Justice League to this. Like, I just can't imagine, like, Warner Brothers seriously looking at what they had with Zack's movie. First of all, calling it unwatchable, and 2, thinking that Joss's version in any way is superior. Like, I don't get it. Like, I truly don't understand.
I think it has everything to do with ego. Because if you think about it, you know, if you put it into the perspective of the actual studio, this studio has been around for years now. And it tries to pride itself on this sort of image where it does not want us as the viewers to think that it is, you know, faltering. When in reality, it kind of is. Like, I've been, like, paying attention to a lot of WB stuff for a while, and to be honest, they're not really doing that well. Like, in the grand scheme of things, they're not really doing that well. Like, all their movies, you know, since, I guess, maybe 2014 or 2015, they haven't been really making a lot of box office money. And plus, of course, there's just a whole bunch of other things going on behind the scenes, actors leaving, directors leaving, the merge with AT&T. It's for WB, it's basically do or die. And the fact that they literally threw away an idea produced by a director who just had different ideas in mind, and they just kind of took that to the test of arrogance. Because as we saw, Zack Snyder's Justice League did phenomenal in terms of viewership. Everyone loves it. People garnered to it. People who didn't like Man of Steel and BVS really enjoyed Zack's Justice League. And to WB, that just shows that they were wrong, which they've been wrong for quite some time, especially like the Joker and now with this movie. It feels like they keep taking steps back and they can't own up to the fact that they were wrong. And if this keeps up, if they keep acting like this, then all they're going to be facing is this constant wave of failure. So who knows when they'll shape up and realize, you know, maybe we should look at this as an indication that we should change, or if they'll just keep flooding themselves into this layer of bullshit. You know, exactly. Only time will tell.
Yeah, and that's the thing.
I don't think.
Yeah, go ahead, Dash.
I don't think they're like really on a trajectory where they're going to change because, like, well, like Al was saying, like you're even saying from like 2014, but this has been a problem since like they even had a successful franchise. Like,
yeah,
when they had Harry Potter, like, and that was like for a decade. Even if it was successful, it was successful because like the books were successful. It wasn't. Yeah, I mean, like the movies had to do with it, but like I was talking about this and how like Warner Brothers has never known how to like market their own things, and create good merchandise even when they had something successful. So I don't think they're going to change anytime soon. But I mean, like we can hope. But as far from what I've seen from like everything they've ever done for any franchise that they've wanted to have, they've like always dropped the ball on it, which is really unfortunate. And it's just like, this is why I'm just like, oh my god, can like, well, I don't even want Superman to be a part of DC Comics, but like the easier step would be like, can Warner Brothers not have this IP because like give it to someone else, like please.
Honestly, because like it's like when was the last time we had a Superman movie? Was 2013, and at this point, and now there's rumors of there being a reboot, and it's like, first of all, you only had one solo Superman movie with Henry, and now you're just gonna be like, okay, we're gonna have to reboot the whole thing. No, just make a Superman movie. Make a Superman movie that can, be able to just be entertaining. But again, the other problem is that, they've tried to do so many different things when it comes to Superman films. They tried to appeal to the nostalgic crowd with Superman Returns. Didn't work. They tried to reinvent him. It didn't work. And now they're stuck in this sort of limbo where what's the option for them now? Where do they go with Superman? And apparently their answer was a complete reboot. But like with everything that WB has done, and this reboot apparently being, a black Superman with either Val Zod or Calvin Ellis. Those two are the names of the Black Superman. I just don't see that working well because WB has not proven to me that they can handle a black characters, let alone a Black Superman. Like that scares me so much because I just can't see it working.
Mm-hmm. And
can we also? Yeah. Oh, sorry.
No. Go ahead, Emily. Go ahead.
I just want to mention how it's not really being talked enough. How Joss's version completely removed almost any seems to be a person of color. It is kind of in a way that's almost systematic. Entire characters, even extras with no dialogue. They even cut out any quick shots of the African and Asian human warriors during the history lesson.
Oh yeah, I noticed that too.
That is something we need to talk about because it goes beyond this obviously the abuse that Ray Fisher went through that's terrible, but at the same time what was going through Joss and other WB bigwigs to just the idea of people seeing non-white people is just so abyss it's will not be good for us monetary for when it comes to money. So I just don't understand what was the reason for that besides it's extreme racism. So I just wanted to rant about that,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No, yeah, and that's the thing that was made so abundantly clear watching Zack's version. Literally, Joss and WB got rid of countless people of color, and it's not even funny how many people they got rid of. Ryan Choi was a whole character. Granted, he didn't have much of a character arc or anything, but he had a role. He was gone. And then you had the woman and her son who Cyborg was helping and got the money for. Her whole thing gone. Cyborg's mom gone. Cyborg himself, his entire thing in theatrical was basically cut out and minimized to nothing. So that was gone. So much. Again, when Ann Sarnoff the other day said, oh, none of this was racially motivated. Well, then tell me what... Yeah, then tell me...
Hey!
And I was oh, thank you. You're telling me that. Great.
and then she had the nerve to say, oh, I'm not racist. My best friend is Asian. He understands the struggle.
Oh, yes. Walter can't be racist because he's Asian. Yeah.
That whole thing, seriously, Ann Sarnoff, that was seriously one of the dumbest interviews I've ever seen in my life. Not even just the timing of it, because it's obviously WB is doing everything they can to sabotage the success of this movie.
Oh yeah, that came out on Monday, didn't it?
Yep, because everyone was waiting for the numbers and stuff to come in, and then that came out. Yeah.
Yeah, it completely took the wind out of my sails. I was in such a good mood from the weekend, and then that interview dropped.
And the same thing for me. I remember that came out. I'm that really bummed me out for one. And then after a day, I'm why am I even letting this bother me? This is just typical Warner Brothers BS. We should have known that they're going to do something like this. And literally, the entire article is gaslighting Ray and underplaying the severity of how bad things got with the theatrical cut, and and saying that oh, we want the multiverse to exist, but we don't want Zack's films to exist. What? It's so stupid. And I know we've gone back and forth on whether the whole restore the Snyderverse thing. How we are, a lot of us are on the boat of okay, well, maybe it's not best probably isn't best for Zack to work with Warner Brothers again, given how they've treated him and treated the cast and treated these characters. Let him move on. Let him do all his own IP from now on. Let him be with Netflix. Let him be with all these different things so he can tell his own stories, not be tied down to cape shit. But then at the same time, it's I want him to make a. And here's the thing: the Snyder Cut is a success, and Warner Brothers it hates that it is. And the funny thing is just this movie changed people's minds on Zack so much. How many times a day now do we see people being I was wrong about Man of Steel.
Now that you mention it, it did actually.
yeah, all of a sudden people are revisiting Man of Steel and Batman v Superman, being like, wow, maybe I was too harsh on that movie. It's actually a pretty good movie. It's like, oh wow.
I mean, I don't forgive that.
Oh
that.
no, neither do I.
Now you nothing.
Think it's good.
Yep, I never forgive
all that crap I went through.
No, I'm not forgiving those people either.
It's like too little, too late. Like no.
No, yeah, and that's the thing. Like, I don't like. I'm not forgiving those people either, especially because how many of them said horrible things about Zack during the whole Man of Steel BVS period, and then like even when his daughter died, people were like celebrating it. Like, people to this day are still like saying like, oh, thank God we got the Joss Whedon version, and saying terrible things about like why Zack's daughter did what she did. Like, those people can burn in hell. I'm not afraid of saying that. But like it's like literally like, but seriously, this movie, Zack Snyder's Justice League, is way bigger than Joss Whedon's ever would have been. And right now, and I was talking about this with Al before we started recording. Like, I'm seeing so much of this movie being talked about now outside of like our fandom space. I'm seeing it all over like my Facebook, and like people like I casually know like talk about it, and like, oh, have you seen
Leslie Jones?
Leslie Jones.
Leslie Jones was an MVP for the.
That was amazing. I'm so glad Zack saw all that.
Mm-hmm. It's and that literally like because I was up that whole night because like I have a newborn, so we're up most of the night anyway. But so much of the night was just me checking on the latest Leslie tweet and the Leslie video. Like and that's the thing. Like, and so many of these people in these checkmarks who are watching this movie for the first time, or who even maybe didn't like pay attention to or care about or see Man of Steel or Batman v Superman, but now are like, hey, this was a good movie. I want to see more. Like, so many people. Like, I would say probably a good solid, like, 80% of the people I see talk about the movie are saying, where's the sequel? I want to see the next installment. And you know how mad that's making Warner Brothers right now, because they didn't want that.
Yeah, it's like you got people asking for a sequel, and it's like, well, now what you gonna do? Now you look stupid being like, oh, there is no sequel. There is no sequel? Then what's the point? It's like,
this is why they didn't want to release it. if we're going back, because they knew, like, maybe they thought it was unwatchable or whatever that report was, but they knew, like, the worst case is what's happening now, which is that a lot of people liked it way better than what we were given in 2017. And then everyone's like, where's the sequel? And then everyone Warner Brothers looks really stupid because it's like, oh, this was the movie we could have, it would have been a shorter version. We could have released this 4 years ago and gotten like 2 sequels out by now, and we didn't do that. So that's why they never wanted to release this in the first place.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh no, go on, it's fine.
I was going to say, like, why I'm happy about like the much better reception this is getting compared to like BVS and Man of Steel. I do think it has something to do with like Joss's version existing, so we have like we can compare and contrast like what a bad director does versus what like at least a director that actually cares about filmmaking does with like a superhero movie. So you have that massive like difference. Plus, Joss also being like a scumbag. So I think people are much more warmer to this version because from all accounts, Zack is like a sweetheart, and despite the length of the movie, it does seem like he actually cares about making it presentable. So I think that's like the reason why people are much more warmer towards this version of Justice League. Because I do think if this came out but shorter in 2017, you definitely probably seen the same people who are probably praising this movie right now, to like constantly dunking on it, making dumb jokes about it, still saying how it's too dark or seems like an Avengers trip off. So I definitely just find the cynic in me kind of is like, maybe it's not purely out of like the movie didn't completely change your mind, but I think this has something to do with like Joss being and his movie being such like a mess.
Yeah.
Oh, speaking of Avengers, like I'm enjoying all these pieces I'm seeing the Beetle films more. Like, did you guys, or at least the title, it basically said like, oh, MCU movies are good, but we need more Zack Snyder kind of films.
I wanted
And I'm
to
like,
punch
wow.
someone. I was like, oh wow. And in the article it was like, wow, his movies have like consequences. Wow, what a concept. And I was like, are you kidding me? Are you actually kidding me? Now you're like, wow, these are pretty good. Like, I was so mad. I was like, yeah, this is what we've been saying. And now you're coming in, like, in the at the latest hour to say, oh, actually, I think there's some merit here. At the point where we're probably not going to get any more movies from him.
Yeah.
Now you want more movies from him when we're not getting any more. Okay. All right.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
We could have used that 3 years ago. Thank you. Or more like 4. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm also waiting for, like, comparisons between I guess, the first Avengers and, Zack Snyder's Justice League. And I'm hoping people look at the Avengers again and realize, wow, this movie is basically like Joss Whedon's Justice League, and it's no longer being as this amazing thing. But I don't think that's ever going to happen because the first Avengers was the first of its kind. So I don't think that comparison's ever going to happen.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, people I don't think are ever really going to realize that the first Avengers doesn't age well. Like,
Nick just said it.
and here's the thing. Like, at the time, like, obviously this is before I knew what a piece of shit Joss Whedon was. This is like 2012 when I wouldn't even call myself a Joss Whedon fan, but I was a big fan of that movie at the time when it first came out. But, like, I've tried to give that movie a shot in recent years, and it just does not age well at all. And I just see that, like, someone just said, like, the Avengers movies are just, like, how can anyone call them friends when it's just them nonstop bickering at each other and basically being assholes to each other?
Yeah, and that's what he did in
Justice League. Exactly, yeah.
It's like, just bickering. Yeah.
Yeah, like, even in the trailers, they were like, we're not a team, we're a time bomb. And, like, I get it, first-time dynamics like that don't always work out.
Yeah.
But then they brought it back for the second movie. And then at that point, it's like, okay, the first movie, I understand they're bickering because they come from different worlds. But the second movie, like, at that point, they have been a team for probably a while now. And you're telling me they still haven't gotten over the incessant arguing, finding some sort of, compromise, and then Civil War.
Did they do that in Age of Ultron? Like, for the record, I've seen Age of Ultron once.
I have too, but I do remember.
But I don't. Oh, you have to? Yeah, it's not worth seeing twice.
Yeah, like
at the beginning, aren't they kind of friendly? Don't they have?
Yeah,
they're kind of friendly.
They have a party.
They have a party, but like it's as the movie goes on, and it's Tony's fault essentially.
Well, that's the problem with the MCU is that everything is Tony's fault.
It's Tony's fault. He basically
that's the MCU of summer.
He went behind everyone's back and tried to make this super AI to defend against, incoming threats,
and then did the same thing with Vision.
Evil. So yeah, it's Tony's fault.
Yes, that is true.
And that's the thing. Like, I think Tony's fault. And here's the thing. And I think Joss Whedon I think he uses Tony Stark as a self-insert for him, because he likes to think he's that smooth and he's that cool and he's that smart and that clever.
Didn't in Age of Ultron, did he kind of make like a rape joke about like Prima Nocta?
Yep.
About how things can have their way of like, I don't know, it's just like a weird, in retrospect, it's weird. And also how like in the first movie, Loki called Black Widow like basically like a whiny C word. Yep. Just like
you mewling, or something like that.
That's
kind of weird.
What did she even whine about though? Like, what did she even whine about? Black Widow barely had a character in that movie for me to remember.
I've watched Avengers so many times. I haven't seen it in a while, but in that scene, she was like telling him her sad backstory.
Wait, she was telling Loki the sad backstory?
Yeah.
Yes.
When he was locked up in the little cage thing.
Well, okay. Because I guess, like, Loki, she was trying to manipulate him, I guess, and she's talking to him about Clint, and she's like, "Can you? Where is he? What did you do to him?" And he's like, well, why do you care? And she has to tell him, I guess, because she wants to manipulate him. Anyway, so she tells him her whole sad backstory, and then he calls her a queen.
Oh. Well, why tell the backstory in the first... I don't know. Like, look, I don't really know Black Widow's character that well, but I do know that for characters like that who have very scarred pasts, they don't just reveal their entire backstory to a villain, like, right off the bat like that. Because I feel like Black Widow is someone who likes to keep everything concealed. You know, so for her to tell her backstory to him, and then, yeah, it's just Joss Whedon nonsense to me.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing, and that's why I'm still of the mindset, and always will be of the mindset that movie was a fluke, because, like, it was the first of its kind, and, like, was mildly entertaining for the time, but that was 2012, and we're almost a decade later, and who really talks about the Avengers anymore? Like, the first one.
Like, who really talks about any MCU films after they've come out for, like, after a month?
Well, Endgame is the only one I think people talk about because they think it's the most ambitious thing ever made.
Yeah, and I can understand Endgame, but, like, any other MCU film, has anyone actually ever talked about it? Like, the most MCU films that I have heard be talked about is Thor Ragnarok, Black Panther, Winter Soldier, and I want to say Endgame. Other than that, I have not really seen any other discussion for any other MCU film. Well, WandaVision. WandaVision kind of counts. But even then, that one's mostly for the memes, not for any sort of actual conversation.
I don't know, man.
We're touching on something great with the Avengers here, because I've just realized recently, well, over the last year, that it's not that great. I mean, it's a perfectly good movie. Like, it's completely watchable. Like, if it's on, I'll watch it. But it's not that memorable. It's just kind of fine. It doesn't even have super incredible action sequences, I would say.
Well, that's the thing. Like, it's like so much of it is just on that helicarrier in that set. You know?
Yeah. Infinity War is definitely better than the first Avengers movie.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
I will take that to my grave. Like, Infinity War
is fine.
Yeah. I think it's because there was the stakes in it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's fine. I don't love it. I think there's some stupid things in it, but, like, I'd watch it. I think it's probably more memorable than the first Avengers.
Oh, for sure, sure.
I think the first Avengers, like, I understood why, like, it was so praised at the time, and, like, I totally get, and even I loved it. Like, it was so fun to watch.
Mm-hmm.
But I think a lot of the reason why it got praised, and I do get this, is because it really was incredibly ambitious at the time. Not story-wise, mind you. It was ambitious in that, like, it was a sequel to, like, 4 or 5 other movies. You know, all these characters from these other movies all coming together in one movie that hadn't really happened before. And of course, it's the first time a bunch of superheroes are together, and, like, that's the first time we've really seen that, and that's really exciting. So, yeah, I get why it was beloved at the time and really well received.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but you know, it's sad that, and I guess I'm kind of going off the topic of the Avengers, but it's a shame that you know, we had the opportunity to have so many other DC movies that could have come out that Zack was trying to get off the ground. Like, and the one that always bothers me the most that we didn't get was the Ryan Choi movie, The Atom. Yeah, and why that one bothers me the most is because Zack essentially pitched it as a Chinese-led superhero film that was going to be set in China with a predominantly Chinese cast. And why that bothers me is because China loves comic book movies. China eats comic book movies up. They love they love Marvel. They love comic book movies in general. So, with that in mind, why would you not greenlight a film that's set in China, that has a predominantly Chinese cast, that has a Chinese superhero? Why would you just say no to that when you want to try to be like Marvel? And Marvel's already doing that with Shang-Chi. So they literally shot themselves in the foot in the worst way possible by saying no to that film, or at least not considering doing it.
Yeah. It's so stupid.
Just turn away free money, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I was, for all the reasons you said, but also because, like, that's a cool superpower that he can shrink like that. And also, I know we have that with Ant-Man, which I haven't seen, but I kind of know what Ant-Man's tone is. And I thought, it would be so cool to see, like, a really serious movie, like, that takes his powers, like, really seriously in a movie, like, with the shrinking powers. I feel like that could be so cool visually, and now we're not going to get it.
Yeah. I guess it's because Marvel already did it with Ant-Man, and I guess maybe that's why. Well, I don't even know when he pitched the idea. Actually, I don't even know when he pitched the idea, though. That's the thing. Because if he had pitched the idea, like, after the first Ant-Man movie, then, yeah, I can kind of see. But I don't really know when he pitched the idea.
It was probably during filming of Justice League.
Yeah, so Ant-Man had already come out. Even then, like, so what? So what? I mean,
like, there's plenty of people with the same powers.
Yeah, Captain Marvel. You did Captain Marvel, who sort of, kind of... Well, no, she's not like Superman. What am I talking about? In terms of powers. But I feel like they just fumbled the bag in the worst way possible, or never even had it in the first place. Remember when we were going to get a Deadshot movie?
Oh, that would have been so cool. God.
With Will Smith?
I want to see that Deathstroke movie.
The ball. Like, are you kidding me? A Deadshot movie starring Will Smith? What the? Of course people would watch that. I would have watched that.
And that's the thing, like, even if DC greenlit those, more obscure movies like Deadshot or whatever, like, you had the big names there,
Yeah.
Yeah. They were going to do a Blackhawks movie with Steven Spielberg.
Oh, God! I forgot about that!
I think everyone forgot about that.
Yeah, everyone forgot about that.
They got Steven Spielberg. How did they get Steven Spielberg to agree to a DC movie, and then somehow that didn't happen?
That's the thing with DC. That's the thing with Warner Brothers, is that they announce all these different projects, and they know they're not going to land. So they either announce them to deflect from something else. Like right now, they're announcing all these other random ass projects to deflect from the Snyder Cut and to deflect from Ray bringing up these issues. Or they're throwing shit at the wall and see if it sticks.
Yeah, because only like 1 in 5 of the announced movies get made.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like
if that,
or they just fuse with other movies.
Mm-hmm.
Like Dr. Fate is now going to be in Black Adam, and Supergirl is now going to be in Flashpoint. So and
then they announced that stupid Hour Man movie.
Huh?
And then they announced that stupid Hour Man movie. Like,
wait,
who?
Oh,
wait,
I vaguely remember that.
Wait, what?
Yeah, they announced an Hour Man movie, like from the JSA.
When?
Like last week or something?
Yeah, it was pretty recent.
Serious? How? Bruh. How are you gonna make Hour Man?
Yep. And that's the thing. Who asked for that?
It's like Peacemaker. No one knows who Our Man is.
Didn't they have a Plastic Man movie once?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah.
And remember they announced Lobo with Michael Bay?
Oh god.
Oh my god.
That was dark days.
That was a while ago. And I love James Wan, don't get me wrong, but a Trench movie?
Yeah, that's a no. What are you?
I mean,
literally, what's the plot
Maybe
of
there's
that?
something fun in there, but I don't think that's ever happening.
That's one thing. Like, I can understand wanting to do like an Amazon's movie or an Amazon's like HBO Max show.
Oh.
But the Trench? What?
The Trench. That one scene in the movie that no one would probably remember unless you told
Excuse me. That's the scene in the movie. And that's
Okay,
objective.
but-
Like, even if you don't like Aquaman, come on.
Because there's like so many other amazing things in the movie that I think the Trenches kind of falls. I think the Trenches kind of falls behind that first reveal of Arthur in the classic suit.
Okay, yeah, but that's because that's the classic suit. But okay, I agree. There's no call for a Trench movie. I'm not defending the Trench movie. I do think that's like arguably the best scene in the movie, and it is usually very appreciated. But we don't need a movie about them.
Yeah, like what are you gonna do with a movie about the Trenches? Like who's gonna be in it? Is it gonna be like a traditional horror movie where it's just regular people?
I guess it could be about how they evolved or devolved into the Trench, because they used to be.
It's so stupid.
Movie about that.
Yeah, I don't either. There's kind of a horrific story too.
Like, hold on, give me a second. I seriously want to find the list of all the random DC movies they've announced over the years that never. Honestly, I will say though, I'm surprised Black Adam got off the ground because they've been saying they're going to do that for like over a decade.
Yeah.
I actually am not surprised because it's The Rock, and he hustles. Like, I feel like as soon as they confirmed he was doing it, I was like, that's going to happen because he will make sure it happens. He would not have that, like, he's not the type that, like, he would have himself announced as a superhero, and then it never happened. He would hate that. So I'm not.
Okay. So I found the list on Wikipedia. So these are films that aren't currently in development but have been announced over the years. Amazons, Batgirl, Blackhawk, Blue Beetle, Booster Gold, Deadshot, Gotham City Sirens, Green Lantern Corps, Harley Quinn vs. the Joker, Our Man, a Jared Leto Joker movie, Lobo, New Gods, Nightwing, Plastic Man, Static Shock, Supergirl, another Superman movie if that ever gets made, which probably won't, The Trench, and Zatanna.
The what?
Announced the Supergirl movie?
Wait, the Ant?
Huh?
What was the last one?
Oh no, I said Zatanna.
Oh.
Oh, that's not happening.
Was it Oh yeah, But no, they did announce the Supergirl movie
A while
I
back.
don't even remember that.
Yeah, it was way.
Yeah, Supergirl.
back.
Let me see what it says about
I remember
that.
that announcement.
So Supergirl was announced. So they first talked about doing that like August of 2018, and I remember when they announced that was right before they were saying that Henry Cavill was leaving the role of Superman.
Right, yeah, because there was all this Supergirls replacing Superman and stuff. I remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that. And then I remember, wait, can you name we gotta go over these lists of movies, because I feel like that's gonna,
Okay, so here, we can start. So they announced the Amazons thing, which, again, the Amazons can work as like an HBO Max series. I think that could work.
Oh, yeah. I can see
Batgirl, I don't trust Warner Brothers. But Walter Hamada said he wants to do it for HBO Max as an exclusive film. I don't trust you, Hamada, so never mind.
Batgirl was gonna be in the Batfleck movie.
Yeah.
Cry. God.
She was gonna help fight Deathstroke.
Batgirl and Batman versus Deathstroke. Oh god.
That would have been so
But then
cool.
I wasn't gonna trust them because I've been scarred by the Killing Joke.
No, I don't think that would have happened.
But I love the way Joker wasn't going to be in that movie. it was so beautiful. Ben said no Joker, and he was so right. God, that I've been robbed of a lot of things from DC, but the Batfleck movie might be the biggest robbery.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At least we almost had it with Joss Whedon.
Oh God, no.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know.
I swear, like, they announced. I was just thinking this like yesterday. They announced the Batgirl movie with Joss Whedon while Ben was developing his Batman movie,
And it was during the reshoots. It was during the reshoots that they announced
yeah. So I wonder if they were like, no, you can't put Batgirl in your movie, and amidst everyone being a dick on the reshoot set, and that was when Ben was like, peace out, I'm not gonna make a movie.
Mhm.
I mean, I don't blame him. I really don't blame him for leaving, but I would have loved that movie.
Yeah.
But maybe I wouldn't have. Maybe it would have been interfered with and gone to shit. Like, who knows?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's just... Yeah. So then the next thing, obviously, was Blackhawk, and apparently Steven Spielberg wanted to make that movie in the 80s, starring Dan Aykroyd.
Dan Aykroyd?
Back in the 80s, yeah, so he wanted to star in it.
Oh, wow. So he could have had a chance to do it now.
So here's the thing. So he canceled that project to direct Raiders of the Lost Ark instead.
Oh, well.
Good call.
Good call.
That was definitely a good call.
Good call.
And then so the last update on that was that in 2018 they were talking about doing it again, and that Spielberg would do it after he did his West Side Story movie.
That's not true, because he's now casting for his movie about me. Like, he's making his own movie about his childhood.
So yeah, that's never gonna happen.
Yeah, that's not.
Yeah, I mean, Spielberg spits out movies like it's nothing, so I guess it could happen, but I'm gonna bet no.
Yeah, and then Blue Beetle, which they just announced that, and like this does sound a little more plausible because they do say they're gonna shoot this year.
Wait, they're shooting that movie this year?
Supposedly, yeah.
How are they gonna shoot that movie? Do they have the whole do they have an entire script? I mean, I don't. How are they gonna? I feel like that's gonna be pushed back.
We'll see.
That's gonna be pushed back.
And then Booster Gold. So that was back in like 2015. Remember it was.
Oh.
And guess who the director was supposed to be? Greg Berlanti.
Who? Greg
Greg Berlanti.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Wait. I'm sorry. I'm an idiot. Who's Greg Berlanti?
Why would you say wow if you didn't know who it was?
Because I didn't want you guys to think I didn't know.
No, you're valid.
No, Greg Berlanti is the producer of the Arrowverse shows.
Oh, heck no. Oh,
I didn't know who that was either. I just wasn't saying anything.
And then he also went on. He also directed Love, Simon.
Too sure.
Oh my.
Oh,
Lord.
the Arrowverse guy. Oh, that would have been terrible.
Yeah. And so so the Booster Gold movie that ain't happening.
I wish if they were to do a Booster Gold movie, you have to have Blue Beetle in it.
Well, that was the
Not
thing. The movie was going to be both of them in it originally. It was going to be a buddy cop movie, but then that didn't happen.
Because they have such a good dynamic in the comics. I loved their stories in the comics.
I feel like that would be better served as like I think that would be better served as a TV show with a better producer and a better writer.
Yeah.
And then so then of course Deadshot, which I think that would have been cool, but I the moment that they said that they were talking about doing that, I knew it wasn't going to happen.
Yeah, I already knew that was never going to happen. Like, you can't... Like, Deadshot is cool, and I think Will Smith would have definitely brought people in, but I don't think people would have been super interested in seeing a film about Deadshot.
And that's the thing. And if they were going to do it, they should have like gotten on it the moment Suicide Squad was a financial success. Because people saw the movie.
Yeah,
like, say what you want about...
announced a spin-off, but they let Will Smith go. Like, he's just off doing his own... He's not coming back to the DCU, I promise you that. Like,
messed up that bad?
Yeah, like, you have Will Smith in your universe, and you never put him in another movie. Wow.
well, you guys know what happened with him and the new Suicide Squad, right? They literally were going to have Idris Elba replace him as Deadshot.
Yeah, wasn't the rumor that Will Smith said no? He's not gonna replace me. Isn't that what it was?
That I don't know. So the only thing I know for sure is that they were gonna have Idris Elba originally.
Yeah.
Replace him entirely, and then Warner Brothers, I guess, talked to him, or James Gunn talked to Will Smith, and they said, okay, well, we'll just have Idris Elba play a new character in case Will comes back.
Which he won't.
Yeah.
I doubt it. I mean, what would he come back for? The only movie that would make sense is Batman, and Ben ain't coming back.
Yeah.
I just don't believe Ben will do that.
Yeah. And then the next thing here is Gotham City Sirens, which that seemed like it was going to happen for a bit there.
Yeah. I would have preferred Gotham City Sirens as opposed to, Birds of Prey. I mean, I like Birds of Prey. I like what it was, but I would have loved to have seen Poison Ivy, Harley Quinn, and Catwoman. Or at least the DCEU version of them, because
with Carla Gugino,
which was probably going to be the one actress whose name I forget.
Who? For which part?
For Catwoman.
Oh, Carla.
Yeah.
The one I literally just said, Al.
Yeah, Nick did say that name.
Yeah. I wonder who would have been Poison Ivy.
That's a good question.
There was rumor about Rihanna.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
That's another one, though. That was like they wanted to do Gotham City Sirens. I'd love to know what happened there. Like, how did that not happen? I mean, I'm really glad we got Birds of Prey, but Gotham City Sirens also seemed like a no-brainer. Like, that should have happened immediately.
Yeah, I think David Ayer was supposed to direct it.
He was.
Yeah, he was.
But I think, after Suicide Squad, some things
But they announced it. They announced it after Suicide Squad came out.
I know.
If they didn't want him doing it, why did they?
I think part of what happened. I think part of what happened is that Margot Robbie got a lot of pull when she was saying, "Oh, I want to do something with Harley," and then decided she wanted to do Birds of Prey for a super low budget, or what's low budget for a comic book movie, So I think Warner Brothers was easier to say yes to Margot, easier to say no to David.
Yeah.
So
well, I'm happy with what we got. So.
Me too. Like, I would still, as a follow-up to Birds of Prey, I would like to see Gotham City Sirens done by, Kathy Yan or someone talented, but I don't think it's going to happen, but I would like to see it happen. I don't think it's 100%
that they'll
no.
cast a 25-year-old Catwoman when DCU Catwoman should be in her 40s, but,
it's not
don't need to get into that. That's just what I know they do.
Yeah. And then there's the whole Green Lantern Corps movie, and then now it's gonna be kind of like a show. That's it's not even tied to anything.
They did announce that.
Green Lantern at this point, I don't care.
Well, that was okay. Wait, let me clarify something. They told Zack he couldn't use Green Lantern while he was filming Justice League years ago, right?
No, they were saying because Zack, the Martian Manhunter scene was supposed to be Green Lantern.
Yeah, but did they say? Did he threaten to quit? It was when he originally filmed the movie, right? Over Green Lantern?
That I don't know the details of. I just know...
why would he threaten to quit when he was just about to release his cut this year? That doesn't really make sense.
I don't know anything about that quitting line. That's news to me.
Oh, he did say that.
Oh.
He said he threatened to quit when they wouldn't let him use Green Lantern. And Martian Manhunter was the compromise.
Yeah, which in context, I'm of the mindset I'm still okay with the Martian Manhunter scene as is.
Oh yeah, me too.
Yeah, because it's technically an established character in the universe who has seen Superman, and you can say it was inspired by Superman and inspired by the League and everything. So I'm okay with it as that end scene, not the Martha scene. But Green Lantern, it'd be cool, I would like to see a Green Lantern. I genuinely thought we would see a known Green Lantern in this and have at least a couple of lines, and we didn't. And that's, I guess...
Well, that's because they told Zack he couldn't.
Yeah.
And they said, we're going to use Jon Stewart. And Zack said, when?
and again, and that's the thing. They always talk about, they're going to do this, they're going to do that with these characters, and then they never do anything. Yeah, or it becomes a CW show.
So might as well just put him in there, but nope.
Yeah, it's stupid. So, yeah, and then, I remember there was a time where they were announcing, a Joker... a Jared Leto Joker...
Joko.
Say that yeah.
Jared Leto Joker.
Yes, there's going to be a standalone Jared Leto Joker movie, and then a Harley Quinn and Joker movie, And, like, I think that was another period where they were just, like, throwing shit at the wall to see what was going to stick. And I will say, though, a lot of, like, why Jared Leto didn't get a movie and why there wasn't a movie with him and Harley is because I think I remember reading, because it doesn't say anything here, but I think I remember reading that Margot was really against that. Like, Margot said no.
I think a lot of people were against it, because, you know, our exposure to Jared Leto as Joker was just Suicide Squad, and a lot of people didn't like Jared Leto's Joker. I think. Well, no, that's not true. That's not true.
I think that's true.
Like that, like the I don't want to insult anyone, but the E community, the E boy, E girl community, they really liked Jared Leto's Joker.
Hey guys, Nick here.
Sorry,
and today is...
Sorry, go ahead.
What was that? I was like, Nick, you sound like a recording.
No, sorry, I had to pull up something on my channel and then that started playing.
But yeah, you know, I think the reason why the Jared Leto Joker solo didn't go through is because no one really liked Jared Leto's Joker. Mm-hmm. So because of that, it was probably a no-brainer.
Yeah, and that's the thing.
Want
like,
a movie with them, so.
I think it's such a double-edged sword because, like, I didn't hate Jared Leto's Joker, but there are definitely parts where I feel like, I don't know if it's a studio thing or a director thing, that there were just certain creative choices done with the character that I'm like, you know what, that's not for me. You know? Yeah. And
I think it is a director thing, or at least a studio thing, more or less, because, you know, David Ayer said the Joker in the theatrical one and the Joker that he did was like sort of different. So obviously, you know, studio executives intervened in something.
Oh, are we talking about how he looked or what he did?
Both.
What he did.
I think it's mostly. I think the look was still David's decision, but creatively,
that was still David.
Yeah, but I think like creatively, I think what we got in theatrical was more of studios and Jeff Johns saying you need to do this.
Yeah, and of course, you know, we had Zack Snyder do Jared Leto's Joker, who everyone who I've talked to about Jared Leto's Joker in Justice League, they loved that version. They said that was Jared Leto Joker's redemption. And that's what they said.
Yeah, I know a lot of us here on the podcast are like, oh, you know, like, fuck Batman, fuck the Joker. Everyone's tired of saying, or we're tired of saying them. Like, fine, fair, but like, as someone who grew up like as a DC Comics fan and like their scene in The Dark Knight is great. You know, like, I liked their dynamic in the Nightmare scene here.
Yeah,
it was good. It was good.
Yeah, it was good.
Like, it's.
Well, I will say a moment I really liked in it was when he called him Bruce. I was like, oh, that's never happened before.
I know.
That was
in live action, yep.
Yeah.
And my whole thing was.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. My thing was like, Zack blatantly talking about Robin in a way that's not like in passing or like a blink and you miss moment.
It was great. I loved finally hearing about death in the family, like or just a Robin dying, even if it's Dick Grayson, I can live with it. But it was nice to hear about Robin. I was like, oh my god, like we are getting that for the first time. It's so nice.
And then there was like that, and then you know, Bruce's promise to Harley Quinn as she was dying, like it very fits in line with Birds of Prey.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Yeah.
Yeah. How she said, you know, if you kill the Joker, do it slow. Mm-hmm. And it's like, that is so in canon with Birds of Prey. And it makes sense because, and it's even funny because I think in David Ayer's version of Suicide Squad, she does leave Joker.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's true. Probably, anyway.
Yeah, which gives the line a little more context.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I thought, and again, like, I had, like, I would say mixed feelings about his portrayal in Suicide Squad, and I still don't know who fully I blame for that. And then the whole, like, rumors of, like, him sending the cast and crew all the weird things, like, I'm not gonna speak on that because everyone's and their mother have talked about that to death. You know.
Yeah.
But as far as like his portrayal in this movie, I thought it was really good, and honestly, I kind of don't miss the tattoos. At least on his, at least the damage one. Like I didn't hate it, but like I just think he looks better without it.
Yeah. Like he can keep the J.
Yeah. I never minded the tattoos. I mostly because I don't care that much about how Joker looks, but I also kind of was like, okay, I appreciate that they're trying something new here. I actually really liked the tattoos. I was whatever about, but I kind of really liked what he was wearing.
Yes, his outfits.
Yeah, I thought they really nailed the costumes. Like, you know, the classic Joker look is the purple suit, so I liked that they gave him, like, a purple leather jacket. And I thought, oh, that's really cool. Like, that's just a different take on his look. So his costumes, I thought, were great.
Oh, me too.
Joker with drip.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they're definitely, like, as far as, like, the costumes and stuff, a lot of looks in Suicide Squad that I liked a lot. I probably would say the one I liked the most, I think it was, like, the silver blazer with, like, the burgundy, like almost like wine red.
Yeah,
shirt.
yeah, a really good outfit.
The one that he wears in Ace of Chemicals. That one.
Yeah, I like the outfit he wore when he was laying in that bed of knives.
Yeah,
like when the knives were circling him.
And he drew the smile on his face. Yeah.
Yeah, like I think all of his costumes were really great, and so that part of how they portrayed Joker I enjoyed, and I thought it was different, and I liked it. I thought it worked.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like, I'm not saying I flat out hate his whole look. It's just like, I don't know. When I think about that movie, it's hard not to think about all the negative stuff people said, and I think about all the negative things like Warner Brothers did and Jeff Johns did. So it's just like, it's just overall a bad taste in my mouth currently, which is like, I'm not gonna die on the hill of release the Ayer cut, but if it happens, I'll be there day one.
Yeah.
Especially after watching this movie, because if there was more of Jared Leto's, I can't.
You can't.
I can't say Jared Leto Joker without tongue-tying myself. But after seeing this movie, if there's more of that performance in David Ayer's cut, then hey, it's probably going to be way more beneficial to the movie and to Jared's career and to David's career, you know, if that's what they end up doing. Because what I saw here was a damn good Joker performance, even if it was just for a few minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm cool with the fact that Zack put it in there. Was also what I was going to say there.
Yeah. And again, we can say whatever you want about the whole nightmare thing, but I other than the Lois thing, I personally find it, like, the whole post-apocalyptic DC world interesting to see what you can do in that kind of playground. And if it continues, like, obviously, like, I don't know how much of a whole movie about the nightmare world I'd be into, but I'd at the very least be curious. And I one thing I am curious of is the logistics of Mira having both an English and American accent.
Yeah.
And I can't remember if we talked about it much last episode, but like, I gotta say, like, here, like, going from watching theatrical to watching James Wan's movie and then going to this, like, I kind of like her with the English accent better.
Bold. Well, that's a statement.
But seriously, like, I love the James Wan movie. Don't get me wrong, and I'm not. I know there was a guy who tried commenting on our video last week about the whole Amber Heard thing. Like,
that was funny.
I didn't let that. I deleted that comment before it got published. So, like, if you're gonna say anything like that, like, I'm not here to debate the whole Johnny Depp Amber Heard thing. I'm just here to talk about the performances and the characters. That's it. I'm not here for the drama, especially because I hate Johnny Depp, and that's where I'm leaving it. But, like, all that being said, it's just, as much as I appreciate what James Wan did, there's just something about the way that, like, Zack handled Mira, and him and Arthur and her chemistry, that like it was really good.
Zack, okay, I love James Wan, and I think that the kiss scene he did with them was amazing.
I agree,
but I enjoy Zack.
Oh, you're breaking up.
Kind of, I don't think he's really. Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah, now we can.
Yeah, now I can.
Okay, I think James Wan's a great director, but I don't think he's as much of a romantic as Zack is.
Uh-huh.
Zack is a romantic, even if he doesn't act like it. So the romance between Mira and Arthur in this version, I thought was really interesting and could have been really good if we got sequels.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I will say though, like I was surprised when they had the initial Mira and Arthur scene, like the air bubble scene. I didn't realize that scene was pretty much entirely Zack's. You
thought it was reshot?
I thought it was a reshoot. I will say though, because Joss starts and ends that scene with the reshoot of Jason, and I think that's why I thought that.
Mm-hmm.
Because in the theatrical, in the theatrical version, Jason comes in saying, "Oh, you took quite a hit. Are you all right?" And then he walks out of the scene saying, "Oh, I'm going to need something from you."
Mm.
So, yeah, that's where I thought that, that's where I thought it was a Joss scene. But after watching it, I'm like, okay, well, actually, it plays way better here in context. But it's overall just in like the moment when like Arthur comes in to save her and like the look they give each other, like Zack is very good at just like that like instant like look of attraction.
Oh yeah.
Like with Barry and Iris and with Arthur and Mira, it was like immediate. Like okay, there's definitely chemistry there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And even like all like the Atlantis stuff, like obviously like it is different from James Wan's version, and honestly, at this point, you can't really say that they're canon to each other because there's a lot of huge continuity errors if you say that it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I will say, I think both are valid, and I mentioned this last week because it's something that Danielle had brought up, how, James Wan's version of Aquaman is as a fantasy tale, whereas, Zack Snyder's Aquaman exists more in a sci-fi world, which obviously is why we get the air bubbles and why we get the little, like, dolphin, like, clicking thing that they do to communicate in water. I feel like there's definitely middle ground as far as how to tackle, I guess, somewhat of a grounded take on Aquaman, but at the same time, like, it's like I don't think there's a right or wrong answer of how to handle it realistically or in a believable way. But I think both are valid. I think both work for their respective movies. But now, like, before I used to be of the mindset, like, oh, Aquaman is definitely picking off of Zack Snyder's Justice League. And now after watching the movie, I'm like, yeah, that's not really the case.
Someone said that to me on Twitter, and I was like, I think that James Wan really respects Zack, but I bet he didn't even see his version of the movie, and he just kind of went with what was canon at the time, and there's nothing wrong with that. But that's just the movie he made, and there's continuity errors, so I don't think it's not disrespectful to either Zack or James to say that they're not in the same world with those movies.
Yeah, and like, that's the thing, like, at the time, like, well, one, they were going post-Justice League, and, like, and two, it's just, we didn't care at the time because we didn't know how badly the continuity, we were all kind of ignoring Justice League at that point. So, like, if there were continuity errors from there to Aquaman, we didn't care. But now it's like, well, now it's Zack to James, and Jason said, oh, my movie picks up right after where Zack movie left off. That's why he's, I gotta go see my dad. Well, I'm like, okay, well, now I'm like, I know that we need to separate the two now, that they really kind of are their own things. But for me, I can't stop to think of, like, well, Mira says that her parents are dead, but then the whole, her dad is a major character in the movie, so it's just...
And the accent.
And the accent.
And the dolphin speak.
And the dolphin speak.
Yeah.
And the air bubbles, like... And that's the thing, like, if you take away, like, okay, you can justify, okay, the air bubble scene, okay, kind of, like, maybe they're just doing it for a private conversation, but yeah, like, the dolphin noises, the accent, and then the whole line about her parents being dead. Those are pretty big continuity errors if you're realistically trying to be like, okay, well, this movie goes to the next movie. And again, and that's where I feel like up until this point, we just need to accept that like, these movies, whether you like them or not, moving forward, aren't going to be really acknowledging Zack's movie. So
yeah, I think this is where like I break with some of the fandom, because they're like some people are really anti like anything but Zack, but I don't like everything about Aquaman. There's some things I would change, but like I want James to be able to make the sequel he wants to make.
Yes, exactly.
You know,
yeah.
he has Aquaman, and he earned Aquaman too. Like, oh my god, he made Aquaman a hit movie. So
yeah, for sure.
I want him to be able to make the sequel or trilogy or whatever that he wants to make. Like, I don't want him to feel like he has to make it canon to what we have now. Like, you know, I do care about director freedom for all of them, not just Zack.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing. Like, you don't have to like the movies, but if you're trying to fight for, you know, artistic integrity, then you have to fight for it across the board. You know, you can't say that, like, oh, David, the director of Shazam, David Sandberg. You can't say that, like, oh, what he made is, you know this lighthearted thing that's totally against what Man of Steel is. So, you know, screw him. Like, well, no, he made the movie he wanted to make, and as far as we know, the studio didn't have too much say so either way about what he could and couldn't do. And Shazam,
except with Superman,
Shazam was a fun movie, you know, like, and. You know, no, go ahead, Al.
He's gone.
Wait, did he leave?
Yeah.
Yeah, really.
Uh-oh. Yeah, I'll try calling him. I think we had this issue last week, too.
We did.
My bad.
Yay!
Yeah, so I was just saying that, like, that's why it's hard for me to really, like, stay involved in the fandom when, like, so much of it is, like, oh, Zack's way or the highway. I'm not saying, like, you can't just be a Zack Snyder fan. Like, that's totally fine. I think a good portion of why a lot of us are here aren't necessarily because we're DC fans. It's because we're here because of Zack and his particular way of storytelling, which is fine. But to sit there and to say that, like, only Zack can make DC movies is, like, okay, well, you're sounding just as bad as people who are saying that, like, oh, well, Christopher Reeve Superman is the only Superman that can ever exist. Or saying something that, like, oh, only the Marvel makes good movies. You're sounding just as dumb, you know?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, and again, you can have preferences. You can say, oh, I prefer Zack's stories over others, and that's fine. That's fair. I happen to... of the DCEU directors we have had currently, or up until now, Zack has been my favorite. You know, and that's not a knock on everyone else, you know, even if I do disagree with the decisions made by Patty Jenkins, and I disagree with James Gunn existing. But, like, again, like, it's not...
James is pure, though. No, not James Gunn. James Wan is pure and wonderful.
Yes, James Wan is great. And then David Sandberg is great. Like, David Sandberg is one of the most, like, honest and, like, fun guys who work with the DCEU. Like, he's so, like, self-aware of everything, but at the same time he's so, like, genuinely nice about it all.
Yes, and he's so funny on social media.
He really is. And that's the thing, like, Zachary Levi kind of ruins the movie for me now, just based on his social media behavior.
Yeah.
And the whole, like, I don't know if you ever saw it, Liz, but he quote tweeted Amber one day, and, like, this whole thing about, like, the friend zone and how he was defending the whole friend zone thing. Like, it was just...
Oh, yeah. I remember that.
Yeah, so there was that whole thing.
Yeah, very cringe.
Yeah, so, like, that, like, ruined my perception of the guy. But, like, outside of that, David is a good storyteller. I haven't seen all of his movies. I've seen Inside Out and I've seen Shazam. Both of which I thought were really good movies, good, entertaining movies. And the guy is a fan, you know? So, like... For people in the fandom to call people fake or to call people like these are people just who like work under the studio's thumb, like I don't think Zack and David Ayer, I think, were under different circumstances because they were a specific type of director, and when the public didn't react well to their specific type of storytelling, that's when Warner Brothers shit their pants and were like, oh no, we need to line things up. That's why Patty Jenkins, even though yes, they changed her ending, is relatively unscathed in the long run. You know?
Yeah, it's not the same situation on every movie. Like, and also that like someone like James Wan, they weren't going to tell him what to do. He just made $1 billion movie before Aquaman, so like they weren't going to do that.
Yeah, exactly. And like even like David Sandberg, who like didn't have like the biggest movies out. You know, he had 2 successes with like the Annabelle movie and with Inside Out, or not Inside Out. Lights Out. I don't know why I keep saying that.
Okay, you were really confusing me. I was like, did he write Inside Out?
No, it was Lights Out. Lights Out. Sorry, we watch Inside Out all the time in my house. That's why it's in my head.
It's a good movie.
Also a good movie. Lights Out and Inside Out are 2 very different movies. But yeah, it's just like people need to get over that stuff, and it's just one of the reasons why, like in general, I'm kind of like ready to move on from the fandom. But also the moment if it happens that like Zack is like, oh, I'm doing more movies, or they announce, oh, Ben Affleck gets a series, Journey gets a Black Canary series, we get the Deathstroke thing. I'm like, oh, well, okay, I guess I'm back. But until that time, I'm like, once the hype dies down for this, I'm just like, all right, I'm just gonna be Lord of the Rings now. That's gonna be my fandom life.
Yes.
Yeah, that's gonna be your fandom.
Al, you too.
Yes, Al. Again, listen to that TikTok. You need to try it again.
I don't know where WB is gonna go now.
Yeah.
It's obvious. I see no plan, no legitimate plan.
There never
going
has
on
been. Like it's
the DC films.
Exactly, and it's all been reactionary. Like there's never been a set plan. It's all been like, well, we need to either compete with Marvel or we need to not be Zack Snyder.
And the problem is they had plenty of chances to be like Marvel. They had plenty of movie options. All those movies that were announced, some of those could have legitimately become movies that they could have done. Like they said earlier, we want to do a multiverse. We want to introduce characters. Well, you had all these movies announced, and you could have done all of these characters, and then you could have already had another Justice League planned out, so you can do that. But they just have no planning. They have no plan. They have no. It feels like it's all studio executives, and studio executives don't really care about the plan. They just care about putting the movie out there, and they have not put any substantial. Every movie that they've announced, most of them are either being fused with other films, or they're just never going to see the light of day.
Yep. And that's just the sad thing. And that's like we talked about earlier. Like if Warner Brothers had just like let Zack release, even if it was like a 2.5 hour version of this movie, and it was a success, we wouldn't even be here. Like they would have had more stuff planned out. Like we would have seen Justice League 2 by now. We would have seen the Flash movie by now. But they're reactionary to everything. Like nothing is like even Man of Steel. Man of Steel was planned because of, well, one of the reasons why is because of the Dark Knight's success. And they're like, okay, well, we want to do that for Superman. So then David Goyer was working with Christopher Nolan, like, okay, well, let's do this for Warner Brothers. Let's make this movie. And Christopher Nolan's like, I'm not going to make this movie, or I'm not going to direct this. I'm going to find someone talented to do it. And then they found Zack Snyder, and now here we are. And I'm glad that's how at least Zack's movies worked out for Man of Steel. Like BVS, obviously Zack wanted to make Man of Steel 2. Warner Brothers said, no, you need Batman. So once again, Zack compromised, and luckily for that situation worked out, and we got one of the best comic book films ever made. Obviously not so much the case with Justice League. And I'm not saying that Justice League is bad, obviously, but with, this version of Zack Snyder's Justice League, a lot of it was just Zack compromising with the studio, and also, Zack doing as much as he could within the parameters that the studio gave him. So it's not the movie we would have gotten entirely, but it's just, again, Warner Brothers being so trigger shy because they care so much about people comparing them to Marvel or comparing them to older versions. And that's another thing that people don't I feel we don't always bring up is the fact that like DC has always had an upward battle because their main three characters have had multiple interpretations, or at least Superman and Batman have. So if people don't like this version, it's going to be like, oh, well, I grew up with Christopher Reeve. Henry Cavill isn't Christopher Reeve, so I hate it. Or Batman isn't Christian Bale, or Ben Affleck isn't, Michael Keaton. He's not, whoever. So it's like you constantly have that battle. Whereas with Marvel, the only character who has that sort of recognition is Spider-Man, because they're on the third Spider-Man actor now, and so like that's the only character who they have that like, oh, well, which version is better. Marvel didn't have that, so that was one of the reasons why they were a success. Like Robert Downey Jr. to people, he's Iron Man, and Captain America is Chris Evans, and so on and so forth. Like DC, it's like, well, there's so many different versions, and like you can say whatever you want about the content of the show, like Superman and Lois. Like I enjoyed the first couple of episodes, but like Tyler Hoechlin's Superman was made in reaction to the poor reception of BVS, and I totally believe that. Like that was the main reason why they brought him on the show. To basically be like that Christopher Reeve light version of the character, because people hated Batman v Superman.
Which is ironic because he's nothing like Christopher Reeve's Superman.
Well, I'm saying at the time, and now, if anything, the show is more like Man of Steel than it is Christopher Reeve.
Yeah.
Granted, I'm still behind on the show, so I don't know how it is currently, but like those first couple episodes were more positive things done with the character than have been done on TV or in most versions of Superman in a long time, other than Henry Cavill,
Yeah.
So just this whole thing, basically, the whole point of this is that Warner Brothers is incompetent. That's the long story short. That's what's going on.
Too long didn't read.
Yeah, and I know you guys probably tuned in to hear more of our thoughts on the Snyder Cut. I mean, we definitely went on a long tangent here.
Oh, wait. Oh, yeah. I forgot we were recording.
Yes, Dash left.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, she left a long time ago.
Yeah, she did.
Dash left a while ago.
But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how they go on.
Mm-hmm.
I'm expecting Flashpoint is going to be where they just reboot everything.
Haven't they claimed it's not Flashpoint?
See, they can claim that, but I think we all know this is their chance to reboot everything. And I'm curious to see who's going to be let go and who's going to stay.
I have a couple guesses.
Obviously Gal Gadot and Jason Momoa, they're obviously going to...
Yeah, they got
still. And as far as we know, Ezra's staying.
Yeah, Margot Robbie.
But, Ben and Henry.
Ben and Henry.
Ben, Henry, and Ray are gone.
I'm shocked that Ben even agreed to be in this movie.
Yeah,
I feel like he's only agreed to be in it because he knows that this is going to be his last time. And
but even then, he didn't have to come back in the first place for this thing. And
he's holding on to hope. I respect that.
Yeah, he probably only agreed to come back if they kill off his version.
I don't know. I think at the time when he signed on, I think if anything, Ben might have been more hopeful that maybe we're gonna go in a positive direction with these movies again, and the studio isn't gonna be as shitty. But now it's become so clear that the studio is even, if anything, worse now than ever. Because now they're gaslighting Ray, saying that race isn't an issue when they literally eliminated almost every single person of color from Zack Snyder's Justice League for the theatrical. And then everything, it's...
Yeah.
With this movie, I'm excited for the actress playing it, the Supergirl. I'm very happy for her. I hope it is everything she wants to be. I hope fans react positively to her. And I wish all the best for Ezra and Kiersey Clemons as Iris. But beyond that, I don't care.
Michael Keaton might not be in it.
I never wanted him in the movie in the first place.
He said that.
He said, "Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to be in this movie because
that was so funny."
But I mean, it's a legitimate reason, COVID.
Oh yeah, I mean, I love Michael Keaton and I love his Batman, and he's so handsome. But Oh my gosh, it was so funny that he said that. And also, he's such like a regular guy that I'm not surprised that when he was asked, he said, I don't know if I'm going to be in that.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, Warner Brothers would be dumb enough to not like get him to sign a contract that he has to be in it right away. They would just announce that he's in it and then like not make sure.
Yeah, and it's filming in another month, so.
Yeah.
and again, going to show the incompetence of the studio, like. And that's the thing, like, at Fandom, they teased the movie with concept art of Ezra and him.
Yeah.
And, like, honestly, like, I don't, like... I came into the Tim Burton Batman movies way later in life, or at least the first one. And, like, for me personally, like, I didn't grow up with it, so I watched it as an adult. For me personally, not the Batman I like. It wasn't my thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think part of it is just, like, I'm just not big on Tim Burton. And that movie is very Tim Burton-y, like, very, like, of that era of filmmaking. And also for me, like, it just seems like the entire movie is on a sound studio, and I can totally see that. So, like, things like that for me, and it just wasn't for me. So that's why, like, when they announced he's coming back, and I'm like, well, why didn't you just bring back Jeffrey Dean Morgan if you're doing a Flashpoint story?
Because that's related to BVS, and we're going to pretend BVS isn't real.
Yeah, but they're bringing Ben Affleck back, so...
Well, that's okay, because he was in Justice League.
Oh, okay. It's just a mess. I don't understand it. I don't even know.
And the funny thing for me is, so, like, this is kind of, like, unrelated, but sort of related. So, like, after watching this movie, after watching Zack's version of the movie, like, I remember after Justice League, I'm like, wow, I really hated that tactical suit that they had Ben in, because it just doesn't look good. It looks so, like, stiff, and, like, he can't turn his head in it, and it just doesn't look good. And I'm like, why did they design this suit? And I'm like, because Joss made it look ugly. Like, the whole suit that, like, Batman wore in the final battle in Justice League, like, I hated how it looked on Ben for years. And literally, I hated how it looked. I think it didn't flatter Ben at all. But that's because of Joss. Literally, I watched this movie, I'm like, wow, that suit actually looks pretty good now.
Yeah.
It just goes to show, like, and I've seen, like, some of the comparison shots of, like, Justice League to this, and just, like, Joss literally made everyone look ugly. Like, he let them all, like, everyone's skin was, like, pink and, like, weird, and, like, outside of the terrible, shitty things he already did, like, both in front of and behind the camera, but, like, Joss, he made the movie so damn ugly, and I just can't, like, I really want to know who watched that movie and was like, you know what, this is the template for the future of our movies. This movie is it. This is the pinnacle of superhero cinema. This is what we want. And I'm just like, it's literally one of the worst movies I've ever seen in my entire life. And it's all Joss and Warner Brothers. And I really hope one day that, like, Joss Whedon speaks on it, just so we can all trash him on it.
Yeah.
He'll have to say something about it eventually.
Yep.
Yeah. So, guys, I actually have to go.
That's fine. I actually have to get going here too. I have to start making dinner here soon. Now it's dinner time for us.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So I gotta say goodbye real quick. So,
Okay. Yeah.
Bye,
That's
guys.
fine. All right. Later, Al.
Yeah,
this was fun. I'm glad. It's been nice having you here, Liz. You fit in very well.
Thanks.
But yeah, and I can't wait for our Lord of the Rings episode, which is probably going to be one of our next ones.
Even if it's just you and me, Nick.
Seriously, I am so... literally, even if it is just you and me, I'm so down for it.
We'll just talk for 2 hours about Lord of the Rings.
Yep, and Liz, you don't know how much pent-up Lord of the Rings stuff I want to talk about. Like,
oh, perfect.
Even though, like, I've said a lot, like, in our chat and on Twitter and stuff, like, it's so hard for me, like, at home, because, like, either people have, like, watched Lord of the Rings, like, 20 years ago, or they just don't care about it. You know, so it's, like, hard for me to, like, find that outlet of, like, damn, I need to talk about these movies that I love. And, like, even, like, the Hobbit movies, like, I've watched all those movies so many times now since I've discovered them. Like, I've rewatched Lord of the Rings either 4 or 5 times, the extended editions. Mm-hmm. And then I think I was on my 3rd rewatch of the Hobbit movies, and then I stopped because of the Snyder Cut stuff. But,
yeah.
But yes, I'm very, very, very excited to talk about it.
We will do it as soon as this kind of big wave of Snyder stuff is over.
Yeah, like literally, it's the very first thing. Like, I don't care about Twilight. I don't care about any of the stuff that they want to do. Lord of the Rings.
I will be on your side with that against Danielle and Dash.
Thank you, and thank you for that. But yeah, so I'll talk to you in the chat, and thanks for being here. It's a lot of fun having you here.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm glad to be here. So thanks.
And for everyone listening, thank you so much for listening. We had a lot of fun this episode. Obviously, we didn't talk about a ton of things that I probably plan on talking about, but hey, that's our podcast. We aren't the most coherent, but yeah, we had a lot of fun this episode, and keep tuned because we'll definitely have a lot more Snyder Cut stuff to talk about, especially once more people come in who haven't had the chance to talk about the movie yet. And keep an eye out. We're definitely going to try to do these as often as we can. But yeah, thank you guys for listening, and until next time, have a good one.